Hello everyone and welcome back to Season 6 of the Choose UCalgary Podcast. For first-time listeners, I'm your host Montana, and today we have a U of C alumni, entrepreneur, and CEO of a very successful Calgary-based business. In this podcast, we hope to show you a different perspective to help you with your journey to learning more about the University of Calgary and how it could be the right fit for you. And with that, let's get started. Joining us today is Mitch. Thank you for joining us today. Can you please tell us a little bit about yourself?
For sure, Montana. Thank you so much for having me. It's an absolute honor to be here. I love my experience at UC, and it's just such an honor to share this story. So I'm a petroleum engineer by trade. I took oil and gas engineering at the University of Calgary, which I'm not even sure that program even exists anymore.
I would have to check.
Yeah, you'd have to check. Actually, the news interviewed me for an article talking about how oil and gas engineering was kind of dying discipline at the University of Calgary, but they were interested because I went from petroleum engineering to now selling tea. Right. So I'm the founder of Rviita Energy tea. Get a little bit into the story, but I left my career in oil and gas. I was working in oil and gas downtown Calgary and had a kind of a traumatic experience that happened to me that inspired me to create a healthy energy drink company. So we started in late 2019. I quit my job in early 2020, and we're now carried in about 750 stores all across Canada. We're a team of full-time employees and soon to be more, and just so incredibly blessed to be able to run a business and pursue my dream here out of Calgary.
No, definitely. And I couldn't even imagine, for one, to make that kind of career jump, because I think when you go into your degree, you obviously have somewhat of a plan and a vision for what you think your future might look like. So I'm very intrigued to see how you kind of had that 180, or when you realized, like you said, that traumatic experience. What was that switch, or when did you realize that you needed to make a change?
Yeah, really great question, Montana. And I think a big part of it came from when I was in university, and I'm sure a lot of students can relate to this. You have a lot of pressure from your friends and family to pursue a certain path in life.
Totally,
right?
Yeah.
And for me, it was get my degree, go and get that, nice 9-to-5 job with, a good paycheck and benefits. But deep down, I always wanted to be an entrepreneur. Okay. It was something that ever since I was a kid, playing with Legos, it was something that really intrigued me. And the further I got into my career, the further I felt like that dream was dying. I was taking on more financial commitments. I felt more comfortable in my day-to-day life. And so that was just really burning a hole in me.
Definitely.
And when I was in university, my traumatic experience actually is I was out with a good friend one night. He was in his early 20s at the time, and he ended up clutching his chest. He stopped breathing. I had to take him to the hospital. And the doctor comes in and says, your friend had a minor heart attack. Wow. That he believes was attributed to the energy drinks we were drinking that night, because we used to drink a lot of them, right? Yes, I was an energy drink addict. And here I was 4 or 5 years in my career thinking back to this experience. Unfortunately, my friend is okay, but it really bothered me. And I was drinking a lot of energy drinks at the time to keep up with the hours that I had to work in oil and gas. And there was just one night driving around in northern Alberta. I was on like my 13th hour driving up in the field in this, I hated going to the field at the time. And I remember pulling over and just having this epiphany that if I didn't take action towards my dream of starting a business and solving this problem that I, witnessed my friend have, which was to create a healthy alternative to this, so this didn't happen to anyone again. Right. My dream was going to die if I didn't take action on it. And so that was really the moment for me where everything changed, and I shifted my focus, towards doing at least one thing a day, no matter what it was, even if it was as simple as a Google search. How do you start a beverage company? And that one thing a day, led to where we are, here in 2022.
Wow. Yeah. No. And I really admire you guys' story, and you all have very different backgrounds, which I really want to get into as well. But I guess my thing is, so before this shift, and you knew you wanted to do this 9-to-5, do you think that there's anything from your undergrad degree that did help you today still, even when you were making that transition?
Absolutely. Okay. So I have the experiences that I got in university. I would not be where I am today if it wasn't for that.
For sure.
I think a lot of entrepreneurs, it might be easy to look back and say, hey, did my education really serve me? Because you learn so much about entrepreneurship just by making mistakes and doing things. Right. And I would argue that, yes, it is so important.
I agree.
My engineering degree taught me how to learn. It taught me how to persevere. It taught me how to work those late nights, right? And that experience, I think, is such an advantage when you're an entrepreneur, especially if you're taking a business degree, but even if it's a degree like myself, that's not necessarily directly related to starting your own company, that experience of learning how to learn, of going through setbacks, right? You know,
Right,
how many midterms did I fail?
Yeah.
Final exams did I fail?
Oh, yeah.
You know, learning to deal with people and work as a team and getting through a degree is going to set you up for success in business. I absolutely believe that.
Oh, 100%. So even with that, do you wish that you had that degree experience maybe more in business so that you'd have that understanding? Or is there anything like more sort of towards the engineering, as we said, like the late nights, but anything more like a class or anything that really kind of you feel like has cemented you and grown you a bit more that you can think of?
Yeah, really great question. I do wish that I took more business classes when I was in university, right? Because some of the basics like reading and understanding a balance sheet, you know, I didn't have that background. And so when I got into entrepreneurship, my bookkeeper's having to explain these things to me that I should already know.
Right.
So if I could go back, I absolutely would have taken, you know, some more general business classes, understand accounting, understand marketing, understand sales. You know, sales is so important when you're an entrepreneur.
Yes.
And as an engineer, you know, social skills doesn't come easy to me and a lot of engineers. Yeah. And so that was, you know, a real learning curve for me. But as far as, you know, some of the classes that benefited me, you know, I got really good working with Excel.
Oh, okay.
I got really good at kind of, you know, forward thinking and planning and discounted cash flows is something you learn as an engineer.
Really?
In project management. So some of those skills have directly translated over to what I'm doing now and have really served me.
Right, yeah, I think that's important to know that there were some skills within some of the classes that have definitely paid off in the long term, regardless, and I think that's regardless of any direction you would have went. You definitely feel like your degree's paid off, you would say then?
Definitely.
Yeah, for sure.
There's so many intangibles that you learn, you know, going through that experience of getting your degree.
Yeah.
You know, the work ethic I think is so important. You know, if you really apply yourself in university and you give it everything you have, you know, and you study on the weekends and you push through and you have a bad exam or you have a setback, those are the skills that you need in entrepreneurship. Because there might be month-long stretches or 6-month or year-long stretches where it feels like every day is a setback. You know, you've experienced that in entrepreneurship and you need to develop the mental toughness to be able to push through that. And that really can start with your degree.
Yeah, no, definitely. Failing forward,
that's right.
Exactly. Was there any one, like, can you think of some people that maybe inspired you during your undergrad that you really still admire today?
Absolutely. You know,
I'm sure there's a ton.
There's a ton. You know, of course, I got introduced to some, you know, really amazing alumni at the University of Calgary. I didn't meet them directly, but you look at guys like Brett Wilson and some, you know, really amazing U of C graduates that have inspired me. And then I look at some of my classmates, right? You know, I went to, you know, my best friend going through university, her name's Joanna. She's built this incredible career in oil and gas. And, you know, learning to work with her and being inspired by her work ethic and how we pushed each other has now, you know, served me in business when you're looking to find a business partner. And, you know, if you can find someone that you work really well together in university and you can get through your difficult degree together, you know, that's similar traits that you're going to want to find in a business partner, which I'm very blessed now to have. And Carly and Rob, my business partners. So a lot of those experiences served me as well. Yeah.
Well, let's talk a little bit more about Carly and Rob, because Carly was in nursing and then Rob has a background in geophysics. You're all from the University of Calgary. So is that where you met? Like, how did the engineer and the nurse and the geophysicist, like, how does that group kind of form?
Yeah, we went from geophysics, nursing, and petroleum engineering to cell and tea. It's definitely a 180. And
definitely.
We're all proud UC graduates. Carly took her nursing degree, Rob geophysics, and myself petroleum engineering there at the Schulich School of Engineering. And so Carly's my sister. So
okay.
And Rob might as well be my brother, but we grew up childhood friends. And when we were both in university at the same time, and we spent a lot of time together, even though we were in the same degrees, and we always talked about starting a business.
Right.
So really, I think the foundation of Rviita, of what we're doing now, actually started, you know, I can remember we'd go to the UC gym every day. Really? And the number one topic that we talked about was business ideas that we wanted to start.
No way.
And it wasn't necessarily a beverage company, but we thought of tech companies and we thought of clothing companies and we had all sorts of ideas, but we just never executed on it.
Right, yeah.
And so we got out into our careers.
Right. So then when did Carly jump in? And she was like, oh, you guys need some help. And she was like ready to jump in.
Yeah, she's the boss. She keeps us.
She's the boss,
She keeps us in line.
Yeah.
So it was sort of a, you know, a joint idea. I had that epiphany of thinking back to what happened to my friend. I'm like, I never want this to happen to someone again.
Right.
And also, you know, self-serving, I wanted a healthy energy.
Yeah.
Right? And so I came to both of them with this idea. And, as I alluded to before, when you're figuring out ways to work with people in university, you understand that you need to find people in your university network to get to a degree that have strengths that you don't have.
Yes,
right? That
that's
complement
right.
your weaknesses.
Yes.
Same in business, right? Carly is incredible with people. She's extremely organized. I'm not, right?
But you can be aware of that.
I can be aware of that.
Yeah.
Rob is a brilliant marketing mind. He is absolutely incredible. His attention to detail. He's also a professional photographer, so he's really good at that. Whereas, me and my engineering background, I'm very operationally focused. My greatest skill set is executing on ideas.
Right.
So when you combine that with Carly's people and skills and sales and organization and Rob's marketing, you have a really great team.
Right.
And I think so much of the foundation of that came from, my degree and my experience in university.
For this week's episode of Who Inspired You at the University of Calgary comes from Chloe Laidlaw. Chloe is a fourth-year accounting student, and who inspired her is Michael Sarp. Chloe recalls him teaching her MGST 217 and MGST 391. Chloe recalls in the past 4 years of her degree, his teaching skills have inspired and changed numerous outlooks I have held during university. He is the first professor that I've seen to genuinely care about his relationship to students and their success. She goes on to say, every day he taught me I was eager to learn, as he communicates information extremely well, and I still apply the skills I learned in his classes today. Lastly, he taught me to consistently have a positive attitude in business situations and group projects, even when the situation seems very bleak, just from the positive demeanor he consistently held. We cannot wait to see who inspires you at the University of Calgary. Okay, so moving on, was there any professor or I know we talked a bit about classes already, but a professor that you can remember that really stuck out?
Yeah, there's one professor. You have to take electives in engineering.
Yes.
One of the electives I took was econ.
Oh, yeah.
Econ 203, and his name is Dr. Pino is his name.
Oh,
and he's one of the economics professors there. And that class, to this day, I actually keep in touch with him. I probably talk to him, once a year. So that's something amazing that could come out of your university. And he was a very entrepreneurial-minded guy. And the way that he just delivered his lectures and he related it to real-world business, I remember that really inspiring me.
Yeah, definitely.
Right? And that's the beauty, is there's some really amazing professors at the University of Calgary. There's even entrepreneurship professors.
Yes.
I took one of the entrepreneurship classes.
Oh, you did?
So there's some really, amazing people that you can learn from at the university that have started businesses, that have business experience, that even if you're not necessarily in a business degree, you could still take some of those as electives.
Definitely.
And learn from some really amazing people.
Yeah, there's definitely more ways to enhance your degree outside of your faculty. And I think that's an important thing for future students to know. So this entrepreneur class that you took, what, why, when, what was that experience for you like?
Yeah, so when I was in my first year, you had an option to actually minor in entrepreneurship.
Oh, cool.
And ironically enough, I made it through about a third of that first class and then ended up dropping the class.
No way.
Ironically.
Oh my gosh.
And I was really interested in the content. And
Right.
really what it came down to me is I was just so focused on getting through my engineering degree.
Yeah,
I
that's
didn't
fair.
want distractions from that. But it was a very inspiring class. You got to write, business plans.
Yes.
They talked about balance sheets. They talked about all of these concepts.
All the good
That,
stuff.
if I had sucked it up and gone through that class, it probably would have saved me a lot of time and money because I've had to learn all of that in the real world now.
No, definitely, for sure. So now, maybe a fondest memory at the University of Calgary. So we've talked about you going to the gym with Rob and that kind of experience, but you didn't stay in residence at all because you're from Calgary, right?
Yeah, I'm from Calgary. I kind of wish I stayed in residence.
Yeah,
and,
you regret that one.
and got that experience. Yeah,
Yeah, you
and,
mean so many.
spent those Thursdays at the den.
Oh, the best. Yeah.
The best. Yeah. So I lived at home, which
Okay.
was great, and I probably missed out on some of those social interactions.
Right.
And, the best part for me, I've already mentioned it, but really was the gym. I think the camaraderie and the people that I met there.
For sure.
In my first year, I really let myself go, right? I was an athlete. And
Freshman
then
15.
It was the freshman 40 for me. So, coming into my second year and when, Rob and I would go to the gym every day and just all of those amazing memories of the people I met. And like I said, those conversations that we had up on the track at the UC there was really the foundation of what we're doing today.
Wow.
And so that's something that's amazing that can come out of your degree and your experience at the university. Some of these conversations that you have and the people that you meet, they could set up the foundation for, really the rest of your life.
Oh, for sure. So what would you tell a student that's like going to be starting their degree, that's wanting to pursue entrepreneurship, that isn't even in that necessary faculty?
Yeah, that's a really good question.
Yeah.
I think about this a lot of times too. If I could go back and tell my 18-year-old self, give them some advice, right?
Yeah.
Going into university. And what I would really say is if you want to become an entrepreneur, right? And you don't necessarily know what degree you want to take, or maybe you're taking a degree that isn't directly related to entrepreneurship, that's okay. Because you need those skills that you're going to learn in your degree, a lot of them are going to carry over.
Okay.
And the best advice I could give you is while you're pursuing your degree, on the side, do everything you can to make yourself better. Read the personal development books.
Right.
Start developing your sales skills. Start taking an interest in marketing. Maybe take some accounting classes, right? Take those econ classes. Start developing your skill set, because that is going to serve you so much. And that's the one thing that I actually did later on in my degree is I started reading, and I would go to courses, on the side that I was interested in. Like I took some real estate investing courses and those types of things. And I really started working on the personal development side because I knew eventually when I did have the idea that hit me where I was going to execute on my entrepreneurial vision, those skills were going to serve me. And man, was I right. When you read those books and you start to develop mental toughness, you start to develop your people skills, right?
Totally.
Use university to develop your people skills.
I completely agree.
Because the number one skill you can have as an entrepreneur outside of resilience, I would say, is being good with people.
Network.
Even in the beverage industry, right?
Yeah.
Like, you can have the most amazing, best tasting beverage in the world, but if you can't get across to the buyer, right, and present yourself well and connect with people, you're never going to be able to sell it.
Totally, yeah.
And so that's what I would say is don't focus necessarily so much on the degree that you're taking, but really work on yourself. Use those years to work on yourself and prepare yourself for when you do start your business.
For sure, I completely agree. So speaking of the best tasting beverage company, what is Rviita? Can you tell us a little bit more about it? I know you said you started it out in October of 2019, if that's correct, and then you quit your full-time job January. So you've talked about the backstory of it, but what is the actual stuff inside the pouch, and what is that all about?
Yeah, absolutely. So Rviita Energy tea, simply put, is a clean energy drink. It's made from tea, organic honey, fruit juices, all natural ingredients that is going to leave you feeling amazing without the crash. And the science, really quickly behind that is we tried all different sorts of caffeine when we were trying to formulate this, because I wanted to create something that was low calorie, no artificial chemicals, just a clean ingredient deck. But I also wanted something that made you feel great and didn't have that crash, right?
Totally.
Because for me, I would drink energy drinks, but 2 hours later, I'd be having a nap in my office.
Yeah.
And what I could never understand is when I drank tea or tea-based beverages, I always felt so much better for longer. And so maybe this is a little bit of my own engineering background coming in. When I did some research, what I found is tea naturally contains amino acids, tannins, things that can combine with the caffeine molecule that basically prolong the effects of it. So you don't get that same crash.
For sure. Yeah.
So all of our energy drinks, clean energy drinks, and I think there's a big stigma with energy drinks now, right? People associate them with unhealthy beverages, and we're really trying to break that. But all of ours are tea-based, natural ingredients, about the same amount of caffeine as a medium cup of coffee, and they taste great. So they're going to leave you feeling great without the crash.
Yeah, definitely. So let's get into the flavors of it. So you told me you started off with strawberry, and then you kind of moved into some other ones. So what ones do you have right now, and which one's your favorite?
That's a really hard question. It's probably like asking a parent who their favorite child is, right? I think it changes on the week. Currently right now my favorite is our elderberry flavor. Right. Because we're producing it out of our new manufacturing facility here in Calgary, and it's just been, for me, it's just this beautiful floral flavor that I'm really falling in love with all over again. But we have 5 flavors. Our original is Divine Strawberry, and then we have Midnight Blackberry, we have Speechless Peach Green Tea, and then we have our Royal Elderberry, and then our latest SKU is called Charity Black Cherry, and we actually launched that as a charity initiative, hence calling it Charity but spelled Cherrity. It's kind of a play on words.
Yeah,
and
Rob needs a raise. That's a good one. Yeah.
Right? He came up with that. Yeah,
Okay.
at the gym of all things.
Yeah. Okay, cool.
Yeah, and so we give back 1% of all profits or all sales from that beverage, we give back to a charity. So right now we work with Plastic Bank. So they remove plastic bottles from the ocean, employ people in third world countries.
Wow. And so how did you find that company, and like how did you know that you wanted to do this with this new flavor?
Yeah, well, being charitable and giving back and preserving the environment is something that's really important to our brand.
Yes.
When we sat down with three of us and we created our core values, things that we wanted to stand for, giving back and serving the world was really number one on the list.
Right.
And so we always wanted to launch a flavor that was specifically designed to give back in some way. And something we're really passionate about is the environment. Right. And we used a really low carbon footprint flexible beverage pouch, which is very unique for our beverage. And we wanted to do our part for keeping the ocean safe and removing, a lot of this pollution that's in the oceans. And so a friend of a friend introduced me to Plastic Bank because they're based out of Vancouver.
Oh, cool.
And they are a really cool charitable organization that takes basically donations and then uses that to hire people in third world countries, giving them a good career, removing, plastic bottles from the ocean and then recycling them. So it's really cool. You're
helping people, you're helping the environment, you kind of cover all bases with this organization.
It's just a win-win-win, and I can't say enough good things about them.
Awesome. No, that's super cool. So now, where you see the future for Rviita going? So maybe just a couple things that you've learned, maybe you learned quickly, or things that you've had to learn over time.
Certainly. The number one lesson that I've really learned about entrepreneurship is it's way harder than you imagine it's going to be, and the number one skill that you can cultivate if you're going to be successful in this is not quitting. It's just perseverance. And I'm very blessed to have, a couple of very successful mentors, people that have built $100 million companies, and they tell me the same thing, that this is so hard, and what separates those that make it and create an extraordinary company and those that don't are the ones that cultivate that skill of resilience, of being able to deal with trials and tribulations and things going wrong, and an employee that, walks out on you, or, a vendor that, screwed you over. How do you deal with that and keep going? So that's really the number one skill that, I've learned about starting a business and entrepreneurship.
Yeah, and like you said, I feel like you got that from a little bit of school. Like you kind of got that introduction to resilience and time management or whatever it may be, and putting more into yourself. So yeah, I think it's interesting how that university background, when you look at it at face value, you really wouldn't think that it's applicable at all today. But like you said, whether it's networking, people, perseverance, it's all been incredibly valuable for you.
It's true, yeah. It's all intertwined. And those are, the technical things you learn in your degree, I would argue, aren't as valuable as those broad skills that you can learn doing that degree, right? Like, you failed the final, or you failed the midterm, right? Well, what are you going to do now to ace the final and still get through that course? I mean, those are situations that I was in time and time again in university, and those are the same skills that are going to carry over to your career and also carry over to becoming an entrepreneur.
For sure. So what's next for the company? Like, what are you looking at? What's the future? Give some details.
We have massive dreams. We want to be a big global brand and help tens of millions, hundreds of millions of people. But the focus for us really the next year is to take care of Canada first. So we're primarily a Western Canadian brand.
Right.
Most of our stores are out in the West here, Alberta and BC, and so we're really pushing to expand to the East.
Gotcha.
So we're doing a lot now in Ontario and Quebec and Atlantic Canada. So we're really trying to push our expansion all across the country and become a nationally recognized brand.
For sure. Well, congratulations on all your success so far, and I'm sure you're going to do all these things in the future. Well, thank you so much again for joining us today. I really enjoyed talking to you. I find your entire brand so incredible, and I love the story behind the brand. And just thank you again for being on today.
Montana, it's a pleasure. Thank you so much.
Until next time, this has been the Choose UCalgary Podcast. Bye for now.